Hey, how's it going? Welcome to The Guitar Effect. My name's Rob. Thanks for stopping by for this episode. It's an episode I've been waiting to make for a good while now because I want to tell you about my long-standing favourite guitar. But before I do, I'll ask you please like and subscribe so you can be kept up to date with everything that we're doing here at The Guitar Effect. So, what is this guitar? Well, here it is. This is my 23-year-old 72 reissue Thinline Telecaster, crafted in Japan. So it's a cool story about this guitar. When I was 21, I'm gonna say, I was living over in the west of Ireland, and I was like, kind of busking for a living and trying to get some gigs over there. At the time, Galway was a very happening city in Ireland. At the time, it was a very, very vibrant original music scene over there. Myself and my band moved over there for a summer, and we all got shitty jobs and tried to gig at night. And we got some gigs, and it went pretty well, and we had a good time. But I went over, I had a Strat, actually a really nice on reflection Japanese Strat, and I had a Hohner Telecaster and a load of erroneous pedals and stuff that I had way too much crap stuff instead of anything good. Anyway, I digress. I was walking down a street in the city one day when I saw this guitar in the window, and I was obsessed with Bruce Springsteen's Esquire at the time, and not knowing enough about guitars, I kind of thought that this was a similar guitar to that because it was a similar colour. It didn't even have the black scratch plate at that point, but I went back to the house, the squalor that we were living in at the time, and got every piece of gear I had, bar my amplifier and a lead, and went into this shop and put it all down on the counter and said, well, I have to give you with this to take that Telecaster out of the shop. That was 23 years ago, and it has been my number one guitar ever since. It is phenomenal, and it is also the guitar by which I base my judgment of all other guitars since. So it is my best friend. So what is it? Well, I mean, it's a Telecaster. Telecaster with quite a meaty profile neck as well. So just to give you a little bit about the specs, it is a ash body, I think. It's hard to find specs in this particular guitar. It's an ash body, I think, with a cap and a semi-hollow slot on the top, and there's not one on the bottom, so there's just a cavity here with an F-hole. It's this traditional 72 Thinline Telecaster. It's got quite a substantial neck in it though, compared to some of my other Fenders. It has vintage style machine heads that are the same heads that have been on it for 23 years and have never given me even a little bit of trouble. It's got two string guides on it to keep the break angle of the strings right. As you can see, the fretboard is worn through in places. I've never had a refret, and at some points up on the top of the neck, the notes are starting to choke, so I may have to think about a refret soon. It's got vintage style frets that have much pocking in them. It's never even had a fret dress, but it still plays absolutely gorgeous. It's got two late 90s Japanese Fender wide range humbuckers on them. And why that is significant is I've heard that this guitar was discontinued in the Japanese range pretty soon after 97 when I got it and went over to Mexico, and apparently the pickups in Mexico were never as good as these. I think the reason that I love this guitar so much is because of these pickups. They are incredibly open and airy, and they can be as bright and single coily or as dark and heavy as you like, just with this really, really amazing tone control. People say that P90 is halfway between a humbucker and a single coil, and I really think, while I do agree that to a certain extent they can be a bit MIDI, these are exactly halfway between a single coil and a humbucker. They're literally like a humbucker with a wider range of frequency, so I get where the name comes from. So it came with a mother of pearl scratch plate, which I had on it for probably about 10 years, and I just grew to hate it over time. It just became very country and western for me in my mind. There's loads of little things wrong with this guitar, like that screw hole this pickguard has been taken on and off so many times. That screw hole, the threads are bare. It's got more dings and knocks on it than I would care to count. This guitar has gigged with me all over Ireland. It's gigged in a good few places in the UK. It's gigged on mainland Europe. It's gigged in Africa. And it's gigged in America. So I've done an awful lot of the gigs. I've probably done 300-400 gigs with this guitar in that time. And so there's one major modification I've made to it, which I alluded to in the title, and that is I fit a Graphtech Ghost system, Piezo acoustic pickup to it. And that's what this little switch is here. So it's you can see the switch, it's magnetic switches these two, and that's a 3-way selector to switch between them. As you can see, the switch tip is gone and the knobs are gone bare. So that's the 2 magnetic pickups, that's both, and that's the piezo pickup by itself, and the output is a stereo jack. So this jack is a TRS jack that if you plug a TRS jack in and split it off to a Y cable, you can send the acoustic and electric pickup signals separately. And that's why this is such an amazing guitar, because it does I wouldn't say a convincing acoustic sound like putting it on a record, although I did use it on the acoustic in the demo at the beginning of this little cheeky track I snuck in there. I've covered that song in many bands for many years, and I've always loved the sound of this guitar for that, which is why I chose to demo it with that song. So yes, the acoustic pickup in a live situation, I tried the Fishman one, I tried the LR Bags one in various different instruments, and this by far is just vastly superior to either of those systems. Plus, it's not a bridge, it's just saddles, so you can replace the saddles, leave it on your current, you can use your current bridge and replace the saddles. One really interesting thing about this is these saddles, which are just regular Graphtech graphite saddles, actually reduced the kind of super high frequency top end on this guitar when I fitted it in a kind of a pleasing way. It allowed me to roll the tone knob up full, which in any sort of Fender style amplifier I was never really able to do. So yeah, I think that's the specs loosely. I mean, it's got a traditional Fender scale length. It's got 21 frets. And as you can see, the neck is worn through, and the guitar's got loads of mojo. It's got loads of damage to it. Never had any neck breaks or anything like that. I've looked after it relatively well. It's fallen off a couple of stands, and it's got a few dings, and I've banged it off things, but I love it very, very dearly, and I think it's my best sounding guitar. And it's the only guitar, well, probably one of 3 guitars I would say that I would never, ever, ever sell. So let's take a listen to it. Okay, so we're going to start the sound demo off this evening with the piezo sounds. And really quickly before I get into that, I might just explain a little bit how the system works. So obviously I'm not going to take the guitar apart to show you now, but basically there are 6 saddles here that have these blue kind of cables that run off them, and those cables run into the pickup cavity. They run to a little summing board where they terminate into one cable that goes into a preamp, and that preamp then feeds this micro switch here. Hopefully you can see it, this small switch here, which goes between piezo, electric and both. And then it all gets fed out, combined with the preamp takes the feed from the magnetic pickups in as well, and then it all routes it out to this stereo output jack. So right now, I'm going to go through electric sounds in a bit, but right now I'm purely playing the acoustic sounds. So this is going to be a pretty short demo, because it's got basically one sound. But it's really nice for both kind of finger picking stuff. So it's also equally at home, doing sort of chordal strummy stuff. wouldn't necessarily go do a singer-songwriter, not singer-songwriter, but like a solo covers gig with this guitar. It's not for that purpose. It's for playing in a situation where it's with a full band, you need an acoustic sound for a number of songs, and you don't want to have to pick up an acoustic guitar. So like for lead stuff, I don't know, like it's okay. Again, I wouldn't use it in a solo context. And then, you know, you can play kind of atmospheric, moody sounding. So that kind of, it's only got the one sound, there's no controls for it. On my board that I use for my covers band, I do have a volume pedal in line so I can bring the acoustic sound in right as I need it. But I mean, or even for the likes of, works perfectly well. So yeah, that's the acoustic sound. It's just the one sound. It works well all over the fretboard, you know. Yeah, that's the acoustic sound. Okay, so we're going to start the electric sounds off with the clean sounds. This guitar's clean sounds are just like everything you could really need. Just to go through my setup, I'm playing the 72 Thinline into my pedal board, and on my pedal board I have the force field compressor on. I have the Milos Popovich custom effects modulus analog delay without the modulation on, and that's giving me this repeats. And I have the Joyo American sound on going into the clean channel to get me a rounder clean tone. So here it sounds, this is what the general neck pickup clean sound is like with the compressor and delay and the American sound. So it's a big, the neck pickup on this guitar is like a big, round, full sound that's brilliant for any sort of solo stuff you need to do, or really kind of exposed sort of sounding picking, so any kind of moody part of a song. So if I go, while it is full and bassy, it's not got that mid-range punch thing that like a Les Paul or even an SG would have. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's scooped, but it's not as present in the mid-range. It's kind of bass and top, and for that I really love it for kind of those kind of slow, exposed sounding stuff. Kind of passage. And it also sounds really gorgeous for any sort of picked finger pick lines, or in this case with a pick. So also an amazing thing about this guitar is it's really sensitive to where you pick on the, like in relation to between the bridge and the neck. So if I play just on a regular point here, still on the neck pickup, up towards the back of the guitar. Or towards the neck. So much bass you're hearing, so much treble you're hearing, so it's all in the one pickup, really amazing. So that's the middle, or the front section. If I move to the middle, then it gets kind of more, I always kind of think it's kind of sounding more acoustic. I'm just going to turn off the delay for a sec, and maybe the compressor, so it opens up a little bit, and you get this kind of thing. I don't know of any other guitar I've ever played that is that comfortable doing sort of hard strummy stuff. Really great clean sounds in this guitar, and like that is completely clean, but there's so much energy and sort of personality about that middle pickup. You can really hear the higher order harmonics coming off the hollow body there as well. So here it is on the back pickup now, with the compressor. Really big, full, humbuckery sound again. But even with that, the articulation is still really, really there. Just has a really strummable sort of quality about it. Again, lead sounds on the back pickup sound great. Just throw on a delay again. Has a percussiveness for even with a kind of dull analog delay. So yeah, they're the clean sounds. So let's have a listen to some dirty sounds now. I've just switched over to the dirty channel on the amp. By the way, the amp settings are, the treble is a little bit boosted, but all the other EQ is flat. And the gain on the dirty channel is at 12 o'clock, and it sounds like this. For me anyway, personally, and again, like I said, I think there's a big part to this that I've had this guitar for so long, I'm so used to it. I know how it sounds, I know how it's going to sound before I even hit it, and that is my idea of a perfect starting point of a dirty sound. So I can dig in or play lightly. That's without touching the volume knob at all. just a dirty channel on my amp, no pedals at all, just the guitar into the dirty channel on my amp. So middle setting. If I go to the next setting and play up around the 12th fret, I get really beautiful Fendery, I might add, not humbuckery and throaty lead singing. Again, no pedals at all. If you do add a pedal, so I'm going to add a boost first of all. This is just a straight up boost, no colouring at all. It's just literally hitting the front end harder of the amp. Vintage heavy tone where the amp is sort of collapsing a little bit. But I just don't think it has that same huge bottom end that a Les Paul has, and I even have the bass on that boost pedal just bumped a little bit. Mixed pickup, almost really tele-ish sound coming through there. But it really does work best, as all teles do, on the back pickup. Okay, so if I switch off the boost and switch on the overdrive, it takes on a more creamy character, more mid-focus. You can see I've got bags of sustain there, and there's like this beautiful top end again coming off this F hole, and it's still a vintagey kind of thing because I'm just using a tube screamer style pedal into a Marshall amp crank. But it doesn't sound saturated. As I hit the boost as well, now it gets saturated. So let's turn off these pedals. So as you can hear, it just does the most glorious dirty sounds that clean up beautifully. Yeah, pick up. Middle pickup. That's the dirty sounds. So I think the last thing I'm going to do is, obviously having the piezo is a massive benefit in this guitar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a really short little track where I start the riff off on an acoustic, and then just flick the switch and or actually roll the volume up and bring in the electrics and playing the exact same part. So it'll just be one electric track and one acoustic track, and I'm playing them both at the same time, and you'll hear how the acoustic and electric interact and can augment each other if they're playing the same riff. So have a listen to that now. So there it is, my 72 Thinline Telecaster, made in Japan in 1997. I would strongly recommend checking one of these out if you can manage to find one. They're pretty rare, these particular ones made in Japan in the 90s. I went on Reverb actually just for, you know, a look before I made this video, just to see were they on there, and I couldn't see one. But what I would say is they do come up from time to time, and in fact there was one maybe a month ago on the free ads website, adverts.ie here in Ireland. I think it was about 1,200 quid. I would also recommend, like Fender obviously make one, and Squier have a classic vibe, one of these, that looks really good. They all unfortunately come with that horrible mother of pearl scratch plate, so you could quite easily pick up this black scratch plate from eBay. I think I got mine from eBay like 10 years ago and it wasn't expensive. So as you can hear, hopefully you agree that it's a really versatile and solid guitar that is useful in a lot of applications. So check it out. And also I'd recommend checking out the Graphtech Ghost system, piezo pickup, preamp and stereo output jack, as well as this mini switch here, which you can see, which I use for switching between the different sounds. It's piezo, both, and electric. It all, I think, comes to about €150 for this whole system, and it's non-destructive, so I can take this entire system out and go back to the way it was. All the only thing I'd be doing is taking the electrics out. No, you don't have to replace any pots or anything, and I would be replacing the saddles with the original ones when it's back to original state. It's a brilliant acoustic piezo system, and it's the best one that I've tried anyway. So yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions about the guitar or any of the gear that I was using, feel free to drop it down in the comments. I always love chatting to people in the comments. And yeah, please like and subscribe so I can keep you up to date with everything we're doing. And thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.